The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 713. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is a vegan recipe developer and food photographer, and I'm really excited to have her on and share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Remy Park. Remy, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So like you said, I do vegan recipe development and food photography, but I've kind of sort of moved into a little bit more of health and wellness writing as well. So writing for a couple of publications, blogging about it, and just sharing knowledge that I have with others to make that more accessible. So aside from that, I teach yoga, meditation, and it all kind of comes together. I guess you could call it just healthy living is sort of what I'm passionate about.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Remy, what's your cultural background?
My mom is Japanese and Taiwanese, and my dad is fully Korean. So I'm Korean, Japanese, and Taiwanese, but my family is, I would say, pretty American culturally and by passport as well. We did live overseas for a few years in China and Taiwan and a few other countries in Asia, but for the most part, we grew up in the US.
Thanks for sharing that. What'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite quote in general by far has been, "Let your past make you better, not bitter," which I found on the inside of a Snapple bottle cap, and it just stuck with me ever since. So that's definitely my favorite and one that I try and live by.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think I like how you found it at the bottom of a Snap bottle cap. You know, sometimes you just find something like amazing in like the craziest places. So I think that's amazing. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think the definition for me is kind of fluid because I feel like I am working on my self-confidence constantly, but to me it means the truest expression of who you are as a person. So that means who you are when no one's watching, but being that same person when people are watching too. And that's something that is definitely a work in progress for me still, but it's a journey.
Thanks for sharing that great definition. Yes, I think we all go through that, trying to be authentic or being authentic when, there's no one around and when there's everyone around. I know as Asian women, we always feel like everyone's watching us under a microscope, or we're always so worried about what other people think. But when we can just go out there and be our true selves, and that's when the confidence will come out and people can see that. So thanks for sharing that definition. And Remy, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
So I would say before that, my life was very much ruled by others' opinions. My mom would always tell me, you can't live your life for other people. And I would never want to do anything that would make me stand out, be noticeable, anything that was really different. I had this fixation on just being small in every sense of the word. I wanted to physically be smaller. I didn't want to take up so much space. I didn't want my energy to be so large. I didn't want to be extroverted or just noticed very much. And, I was very much sort of downsizing myself in every way because I didn't have that self-confidence to be who I was and take up space. Still something that is difficult for me at times, but something that I've been working on for a very long time. So it's gotten a little bit easier. And another thing I would say that was kind of a growth period for me was when I decided to pursue a different kind of career path. So what I'm doing now, I'm self-employed and I blog, or as some people might call it, influencer type of job, which is such a funny world and a weird industry. But, that is something that's still relatively new and unconventional. And along the process, you lose friends, you have people who maybe don't understand what you're doing and don't have the support or just don't know how to support you. So that is something that was difficult because I needed to be confident in myself in order to do that. I needed to basically be my own hype man and believe in myself for that. I couldn't really rely on anyone else for that.
Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, especially when you're out there doing your own thing and there's no one out there supporting you, the number one cheerleader has to be yourself, right? I know sometimes it's so easy to look on Instagram and Facebook and see these lovely curated photos and be like, oh, their life looks so much better than mine. But, we have to stop comparing ourselves to others and just focus on our own lane and just, take action. And, what was that point in your life when you realized you can go out there and be who you are today and have that confidence? What was that aha moment?
I think the aha moment for me was within the people that were still by my side throughout that sort of transformation process. You really figure out who's there for you and not what job you have, what you're pursuing, what you're trying to do. They really support you no matter what. And that's kind of how I started to realize that I needed to be that person for myself as well. But, seeing that there were people who did support it, even though they didn't understand it, was really powerful. And I think that another thing that was really helpful for me was actually social media, which sounds a little bit funky, but when you're putting out content and you're putting yourself on the internet and sharing, your thoughts, your energy, your feelings, you also need to be prepared to receive that feedback as well, which is something that I had to learn very early on. I'm very much an introverted person, but again, putting things out there, you only have to expect that you're going to receive it back. And a lot of the times people will either not agree with you or not understand you, even on the internet. There are always people that will, but at the end of the day, the more people you reach, the more people you'll encounter that don't agree with you at the same time. So that was really important for me because I really needed to reinforce my confidence in who I was and my values, my beliefs, sharing vegan recipes and just whatever I was doing. I had to know that with growth would also come the growing pains of people who wouldn't necessarily agree with me. And that is like the best training that I could have ever gotten.
Thanks for sharing then. That's great you're able to share that, because I know when you're putting your stuff out there, yeah, you will get, feedback that you don't like. You'll get haters. You might get, trolls, whatever you call them. But it's all part of, whatever you're doing. If you're not getting that feedback, it just means you're not doing anything. And, it's just part of the process. And, that can either hurt you or help you. Like for you, it helped you realize you just keep putting content out there because there's someone out there who can benefit from it. And it just helps you build that thicker skin. And, you just keep going. And because of that, what's your life been like now?
Well, something that I think I realized from that is that if you're reaching people who always agree with you, I feel like you're not really reaching the people that you need to be reaching. So when you have a message or something that you want to share, whether it's, the support and empowerment of Asian women, for example, whether it's feminism in general, whether it's veganism or just any kind of message that you have that you want to share, if you're constantly receiving feedback from people that agree with you, you're not really reaching anyone that needs to hear it. You're not doing the work per se. It's almost like you're preaching to the choir. So I just try and remember that although it's much nicer and definitely a lot more, of a feel-good thing when you interact with people who are part of your community and understand where you're coming from on social media, when I encounter something sort of negative or some kind of conflict, I try and think of it as a good thing, because that to me means I'm sort of escaping that little bubble. I'm doing the work. I'm reaching people that are not of the same mindset as I am. And that is so important, not necessarily just to convince them otherwise, but more just to have that dialogue, because that's real life, right? Just knowing how to interact with anyone and everyone.
Thanks for sharing that. To the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you'd give to her?
I think my one tip would be that you have to remember at the end of the day that you are the one person that will be in your life forever, from the day that you're born until the day that you die. And to be really aligned with and happy with that person is so important. I think it makes your experience on this earth so much more valuable and meaningful and just true.
Thanks for sharing that great tip. And I totally agree. You have to be your own best friend. You have to learn to love yourself, unconditionally, like the good, bad, and the ugly. And that's where you can grow and have that confidence to be your true self. So thanks for sharing that great tip. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, or check out some of the work that you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Sure. So most of my content you can find if you just search Veggiekins. So on Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, you can find me at Veggiekins. It's a lot of vegan recipes and wellness tips. And then I have my website, Veggiekins blog, where you can find the actual recipes laid out and lots of articles and just entries about, self-help, my journey with everything from eating disorders to recovery. And yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Remy, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Remy's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Remy today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Remy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. It was really great having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Get your free audiobook by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.